International call, text country code 4477 86 20 60 80 and put "call me" in your message.
And I've got a couple of new guests to introduce you to for this half hour. Park Dietz is one of America's leading forensic psychiatrists who was called on as an expert witness in the trials of the Unabomber and also the DC snipers. Hello to you, Park. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
And also Tommy Robinson's on the phone. He's a spokesman for the English Defence League, a group well known for its views on Islamism in Europe. Welcome to the programme, Tommy.
Hello.
Tommy, start with you. How have you seen the trial today?
I haven't seen it, to be honest, mate. I've been out at work all day, but I think we're playing out what he wants everyone to play out. He has worked all of this out. The man was a monster. What he's done is horrific. He's taken children away from parents, and he should always be remembered from that. But it is quite sad and the irony that he has worked all of this out. He knows he's going to have a big trial. He knows the media are going to lap it up, and that's what he's wanted. So really, it's a bit sickening because we're all giving him what he wants.
And you've given interviews before talking about the blogs that he wrote, and we saw one of the videos in the court today, and you were talking about the blogs and saying that they contain facts about Islam. Just expand on that.
Well, the truth is not a lie. Islam is not a religion of peace. There's been 270 million people killed in the name of Islam. There's been 18,000 terrorist attacks since September 11th in the name of Islam. So we keep getting told it's a religion of peace and it's good for our country, and the fact is it's not. And the consequences will be catastrophic. It's inevitable. There is not one country that Islam has ever coexisted peacefully. Never in history. So obviously it's not all Muslims. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is on these blogs, when you read, it's facts about the Quran, it's facts about Islam, and you can't just try and hide those facts. The truth will prevail. The truth will come out, and eventually people are looking and people are reading and listening and seeing, and they're terrified about what the future holds for Europe. I'm terrified about what the future holds in my hometown of Luton for my kids. I'm terrified by it. And obviously they've suppressed, everyone's been suppressed and people's opinions have been suppressed for 15 or 20 years due to political correctness.
Okay.
Everyone's walking on eggshells, everyone's fearful of saying because they get called a racist and beaten down. And all people want to say is their opinion. And if we wish to criticise Islam, we shouldn't be called Islamophobic, we shouldn't be called anything. It's our God-given right to criticise an ideology.
Lisa Burwell, come in there.
I do think it's quite hilarious to hear a representative of an extreme right group such as the English Defence League calling his deeds horrific, because actually the rhetoric that English Defence League and similar organisations are using does lead to this kind of violence, because you're talking in a really militant way about how Europe is being Islamicized, how they're trying to take over, etc. Of course someone's going to listen. Of course someone who's not completely sane, someone will take it that step further. Someone's going to act, either do something that Breivik did, or they're going to take, a gun to a mosque and shoot people or whatever. I mean, this is the final result. This is the end station of that kind of rhetoric that the English Defence League uses. So to hear him call him a monster is quite obscene, to be honest.
Actually, I don't think this is inspired by rhetoric. I think it's inspired by the view that no one's taking the problem seriously enough.
What problem?
I see this act as designed to bring about this trial in order to call the attention of Norway, certainly, and probably all of Europe, to what he regards as a threat that politicians aren't doing enough about.
Can I just finish? That lady just described our group as extreme far right. Now, the Metropolitan Police Force, the domestic social unit in their police force, they categorise groups like ours, and we're not even far right. There are extreme far right. We're not even far right. And when you say our rhetoric results in this, the man who went on the killing spree in France, who murdered the Jews, for each murder, he used a quote on his video from the Quran. So the rhetoric in the Quran, results in bloodshed and murder.
Let Lisa reply.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you can just go visit any EDL demo and you know what it's about. I mean, the ones that I've been to, you've been shouting, Mohammed is a pedophile. You've been throwing rocks at people going by. You've been throwing rocks at the police. It's just basically extreme right hooligans. So, I mean, it's quite strange that you're trying to turn the tables in this way because everyone can see it for themselves. And you're considered to be one of the new threats of the far right in Europe. Not just you, but a lot of other militant far right movements. So also, I don't know if anyone is taking you seriously, but don't try to cover up the truth, because anyone can just go to your demos and see what you mean, you know.
Trying to cover up the truth. Can you tell me how old was Mohammed when he married Aisha?
Well,
I'll tell you. He was 53 years old and she was 6. And then he had sex with her when she was 9.
And what does that have to do with EDL activists?
And I think we're straying off the topic somewhat here. I mean, I don't know, Park, whether you you can elaborate more on what you were just saying about what you believe the motives are here.
Well, from what's been released in the press, and that's my only source of information, it seems clear to me that this is entirely designed to bring about a trial to call attention to what he believes is a threat to Western civilization that isn't being met properly. Now, the way he went about it, of course, is horrible, and his strategy makes no sense to me. But this is a man who has very strong beliefs about what government should be doing, feels that government is failing him, feels that he has to act alone as a representative of Western culture and civilization.
But I also think that when you say he feels he has to act alone is exactly the point here. He feels he has to act alone because he alone is against the Norwegian government. You know, the first thing he said coming into the court today, he refuses to recognize the court because it serves Norway, the government. And it says a lot because he's acting alone. He's acting like a deranged fool in court, and everybody can see it.
I'll just help you there, Hannah, because I've got the translation of what he said on that point in front of me here. I do not recognise the Norwegian courts. He says, you've received your mandate from political parties which support multiculturalism. That's what you're referring to?
That's exactly what I'm referring to. And I mean, it's like you say, Park, he feels he has to act alone, and he does. He goes out and he kills 66 kids at an island who are there trying to become the future of my country. And he ends up killing the future of the country in many ways. And I don't see how multiculturalism can harm a country, but that's my opinion. But I honestly think he's acting alone on this one. And to bring in all of these issues of Islamization and all these issues, there's no point of it right now because he's at court. He's admitted to it. He surrendered at the island.
David Holmes is back with us, criminal psychologist, off the phone and into our studio in Manchester. So welcome again, David.
Hello. Yes.
I don't know what you just heard then, whether you heard all of that, but what's he doing bringing up in his first statements the idea of multiculturalism? This is what he was trying to bring up all along, was it?
I think probably he's got his own little agenda. He's not entirely alien when it comes to handling the media and really kind of like manipulating other individuals. This is someone who will probably sees his future as doing that. His main sort of grievances may remain hidden. He knows he's got some time here to be able to actually put forward bits and pieces of his own form of evidence. I would imagine it may begin to look fragmented, but these will be in small snippets and these will be in a paced way. As I said before, whatever the actual veridicality of what he's saying, the actual, whether it's real or not, it will be picked up on, and little sound bites, themes will be picked up on by other individuals, and either may actually confuse them, which would be ideal when it comes to the sort of allied groups, but worse still, obviously, is actually incite them and make them feel somehow justified that they've got this kind of person who's gone forward as some kind of anti-saint and killed innocent individual children, let's be honest, only just out of childhood, and actually, has made a mark. And if it's that kind of mark that they're going to follow, that is not the kind of theme that we want for any subsequent action by such groups.
Well, Breivik's had 31 police interviews, 223 hours, 47 minutes, 1,000 pages of notes taken. That's what the prosecutor said in court today. I don't know if that's you reacting to that, David. I don't know.
Yes,
what would that have done to him?
This is really kind of like a heavy-duty sort of piece of propaganda as far as he's concerned. I mean, this is something that he wants to draw attention to. Have those notes been released at all? In any way, shape or form?
Hannah, answer that.
No.
No, that's something at least, isn't it? I mean, that his full weight of his kind of propaganda isn't being viewed. So it is going to be, if he's transcribing from what he's saying, then he will have to actually have some kind of continuity in what he's saying, and for it to actually be joined up, if you like, between his little rantings. So it would disadvantage him from having some kind of contrived manifesto, if you like, being put forward. But I think that's all he's doing. He's not, as it were, retaliating as far as evidence of the crimes he's done, which is what the trial is all about. The trial is already becoming sidelined into his propaganda view of the world and the failings in that, perhaps.
Well, thanks very much to Park Dietz for talking to us. Matt, you wanted to come in there, I think, to respond to something that Park said.
I wanted to respond to what Park was saying about that Breivik carried out these acts because he felt that governments weren't listening to him and so on. All this is clearly true in that this was an act of armed propaganda, to use the term, in the sense that Breivik did believe that. He did believe that governments weren't listening to people like him. He also believed that governments were actually involved in a conspiracy to conceal what he regarded as the truth. But the way Park was describing this is dangerously close to suggesting that there was a kind of legitimacy, if not in his actions, in his cause. The fact is that the views that Breivik had were part of a basically xenophobic, bigoted, racist conspiracy theory which claims that Muslims are intent on taking over the whole of Europe. It's a conspiracy theory to which organisations like the English Defence League subscribe. Breivik was part of this whole network of far-right websites, groups like the EDL. He praised them. He praised the EDL specifically. So I think that, once again, we have to think we're not just dealing with a single individual here. We have to look at the broad networks and the context that produced him. And the fact that we're talking so much about the televised aspect of the trial is possibly a distraction from looking at the connections between Breivik and this wider network, a wider network which includes the far right and also the conservative mainstream.
OK, well, Park's had to go, so he won't be able to respond. But Tommy, you're still with us. Just talk to Matt.
I just believe what Matt says is nonsense. I'd like to just ask Matt, where are you from? Where have you been brought up, or where have you grown up?
What's that got to do with anything?
Because the problem we have is people like yourself and politicians are standing up saying it's great, we live in a multicultural love nest. They have not got their finger on the pulse. I've been brought up in Luton Town, plagued by Islamic extremism, plagued by Islamists, plagued by Muslim gangs, and I've got my finger on the pulse. And there is an undercurrent of anger across our country, across Europe, that I think everyone's underestimating it. You don't understand what it's like to be brought up in a town which we are watching be destroyed from within. We're watching it be Islamified. We are treated like second-class citizens, and people like myself. Because you don't know, because you haven't been brought up there.
You don't know where I've been, and where I've been and where I haven't been is totally irrelevant.
And I think Lisa wanted to just jump in there. Let Lisa jump in. We've not heard from Lisa for a while.
I think it's really interesting to hear, because this is a good way of showing that Breivik is not alone. I mean, he may have acted alone, but he's certainly not alone in his ideas. And this is where the media's responsibility come in. We can't just show it on television to a lot of people without explaining. That's where people who are specialized in the far and extreme right can actually come in and explain, what do all these terms mean? What does Islamization really mean when they're saying it? What is this Eurabia theory talking about, the conspiracy theory that Muslims are taking over Europe, they're colonizing us and so on. So we have a huge responsibility here in explaining and not just letting his ideology get out there uncommented, but explaining it and cracking it up and breaking it down into little pieces and saying this is a fact, these are lies, these are the conspiracy theories they believe in, and they are wrong because this and that. So I would say it's not about should we broadcast it or not, should we give them a platform or not. This is Norway's biggest trial since the Second World War. Of course we have to cover it as journalists, it's our duty, but it's also our duty to do it in a responsible way.
Well, that's Lisa Bjurwold, a Swedish journalist and author. You're also hearing Dr. David Holmes, criminal psychologist, Matt Carr, who's a writer and blogger, Hannah Elise Pollock is a Norwegian journalist. Thanks to Tommy Robinson from the EDL. You're listening to World Have Your Say on the BBC. We're talking about the first day of the trial of Anders Behring Breivik in Oslo in Norway. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can call in and tell us what you thought of seeing the first day of the trial.